So here we can talk about some of the stories of the fireplaces. Poplar Forest, again, is unusual because it had 15 fireplaces that were being served by four symmetrical chimneys on the roof. So each chimney has 4 flues for the different fireplaces on the upper level and the cellar level. So in this case, we can see some of the investigative parts of the fireplace. This particular fireplace in the south side of the east room had been bricked up for 150 years. And during our investigation, we opened it up and it revealed a very pristine fireplace that gave us clues to investigate all the others in the house. For instance, right here are still 2 iron pintles whose purpose was to hold a fire back. It's hard to see, but there is a ghost mark right through here that indicates the top of the fire back. We can also see that there's no sides for the fire back and the brick is being deteriorated, which is one reason to have the fire back. We also see some red paint, which is typical when fireplaces got sooty. You could paint them to make them look a little better. We also see a flat arch here. Flat arches aren't real practical, so there's an iron lintel that helps hold up this flat arch. And there's a second flat arch right behind this with a second iron lintel. So these are called jack arches. And this also has evidence that some ghost mark evidence on each side that shows where the wood surround was on this. And there are nailing blocks here that show where the wooden moldings were attached to the brick wall. Right here you can see a scribe line where someone is laying out where the wood part of this surround would be. So there were no mantles per se, but just pieces of wood that went around the opening. Down here we see evidence on the sides and the back and the floor of a parging, which is just a mortar that would be smeared onto the brick to help prevent it from being burned out. Here we have parging, but in this case, it's on the structural brick arch that holds up the stone of the hearthstones. And this is the best that you could do in a house. Most people just had wood that held up the hearth. Jefferson has arched brickwork, but if we look underneath the arched brickwork, we actually see arched ironwork. So this is even better and even redundant as a way to make sure that the hearth, which is very heavy, never collapses. And so we're going to go and look at another fireplace where we can see one of the recreated firebacks. Here we are still in the east room, but on the north side. And in this fireplace that wasn't bricked up, we still see original evidence of 2 iron pintles. And in this case, you can see what their purpose is. It's to hold this 2-sided fireback in place using gravity. So this bottom one is a very simple rectangle with raised moldings. And the top one is splayed to match the splay of the fireplace. And this is a reproduction based on a large piece that we see here in this display that was found on the property. Using this and evidence from the physical features, we knew what the firebacks looked like. Jefferson had 7 of these sets made at the Oxford Iron Furnace, just a little bit east of Lynchburg. And again, the purpose of a fireback is to prevent the sides, or in this case, the back, from burning out. And in the middle room of Poplar Forest, he had a 3-sided fireback which would have prevented the sides from burning out. Now, the splay on the top of this is also related to the size and the shape of the fireplace, which is another peculiar thing of Jefferson's. He's using a very innovative fireplace design, designed by a man named Count Rumford in England, which is really the beginning of the modern fireplace design in America. So it's got splayed sides, it's got a shallow depth, it's got a narrow throat, and it's got a smoke shelf. And all of that is for more efficient fires and a more efficient way to draw the smoke up the top. So Jefferson originally had a temporary hearth, which is what you see here, brick. But we'll go into another room and see what he eventually put in all of his upper level fireplaces. So here we can see what Jefferson eventually put down for his hearth, which is a 3-piece marble hearthstone. And we have original pieces of this marble that Jefferson was getting somewhere near downtown Lynchburg in 1819. Those quarries are long gone, so we had to find the same geologic vein that ran east of Lynchburg over towards Appomattox, where there's still an open quarry where they're taking out the marble, or it's really an aged limestone for little white rocks. But we had to get the same material taken to another quarry, cut up, polished, and installed. But Jefferson is choosing this local material because marble was not an easy material to get in America. Monticello, he actually imports some Italian marble for fireplace surrounds, and some of that we think found its way to Poplar Forest, used in either the parlor or the dining room. So every one of these choices of materials, of design, is something that Jefferson is particular about, and they may or may not be similar to any other typical house of the period.